NHL regular season recap, night 162, 14 games tonight, and I'm already exhausted, so we're going to try to get through this one pretty quickly. The Penguins taking on the Blue Jackets in our first game. Most of the goals coming in the second period. Olivier, Malkin, Sillinger, and a second from Malkin. Both of his goals coming on the power play. 2-2 after 2, and then Drew O'Connor, his 12th of the year, as the eventual game winner for the Penguins. They outshoot Columbus pretty handily, 36-19 throughout the game. Nedeljkovic not overly busy, 17 of 19 for an 895. Tarasov, a pretty good game, 33 of 36 for a 917, but just not quite enough to get the job done. If you're a Blue Jackets fan, it's a 3-2 final for the Penguins. This game does not mean all that much. They're not making the playoffs. For the Blue Jackets, they'll take missing out on the 2 points, gets them that much closer to Macklin Celebrini or a lottery-esque pick. 3-2 here is the final. The Senators taking on the Blackhawks in just a snooze fest of a game. The Senators win it 2-0. Both goals coming in the first 6 minutes of the first period. Claude Giroux shorthanded, and then Parker Kelly. Again, only 2 goals of the game. Forsberg, 19 for 19. Mrazek, 32 of 34 for a 941. Both these guys obviously very good. Mrazek, 0 goal support. You're going to lose the game every time if that's the case. 2-0 here in favor of Ottawa. The Panthers hosting the Islanders in a game that it seems like the Panthers were going to win, and they thought they were going to. They start their backup goalie against the Islanders' backup goalie, trading goals in the first, Tarasenko and Pulock, and then in the second, it's Barkov, Barzal, and Pajot all scoring. That ends up being the eventual game winner from J.G. Pajot. A 3-2 final here on a night that works out pretty well for the Islanders. All of Philadelphia, Detroit, and Washington losing. They're the only team kind of in the mix for the wild card race that end up getting 2 points tonight. For the Panthers, kind of a tough loss. They do outshoot the Islanders 28-24, just not able to get the one extra goal needed to tie it up and at least force overtime. Again, Varlamov just slightly better than Anthony Stolarz, 26 of 28 for a 929. Stoli, 21 of 24 for an 875. Again, just not quite good enough here from the Panthers, but it was a close game. 3-2 is the final. Speaking of the other wildcard teams, the Canadiens taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. And it's a great game from Caden Primo and a tough one from Sam Ersson. Suzuki and Ylonen both scoring in the latter half of the first period to make it 2-0 early on. No goals in the second, and really no goals for the majority of the third until Yoel Armia scores an empty netter with about 3 minutes to go to make it 3-0. Owen Tippett would score with just over a minute to go to make it 3-1, and then Jake Evans would score another empty netter to make it 4-1. Caden Primo, 29 of 30, a 967, and a very strong performance from here. Absolutely the first star in this game. Sam Ersson, another kind of tough night, just 13 saves on 15 shots and 867. I don't know if I see this Flyers team making the playoffs over this last 10 games with the way their goaltending's performing. There is the rumor that Fedotov could be coming over. I don't know if he gets games in this season, but maybe he's their saving grace that keeps them in the playoff hunt. We'll see, but for tonight, a tough loss against a not very good Montreal team. 4-1 is the final. The Leafs hosting the Capitals, another game that meant a lot for the wildcard team involved, of course, that being Washington, but meant a lot as well for the Leafs. Only 2 points up now on Tampa Bay, at least heading into this game. Mark Giordano scoring the only goal in the first, Bertuzzi, Dowd, and Dewar all scoring in the second, and then Bobby McMahon and Tyler Bertuzzi once again in the third. It's a pretty strong performance here from the Leafs, a 5-1 final. They slam Washington in the shot column, 48-24, doubling them up. Charlie Lindgren did everything he could to keep his guys in the game, 43 of 48 for an 896. Joseph Woll, of course, only giving up the 1 goal on 24 shots for a 958. A strong night from him, as well as some of the kind of middle depth guys for the Leafs, Tyler Bertuzzi, Bobby McMahon, Mark Giordano, a guy that's probably not going to see the full playoff slate of games once the Leafs get in there. But nonetheless, a very good game overall for the Leafs, a tough loss for the Capitals. 5-1 is the final. In the last of the games involving an Eastern wildcard team here, the Hurricanes taking on the Red Wings, and the Red Wings kind of just get blanked here by a very historically defensively strong Carolina team. 4-0 is the final. All goals coming in the second period. Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, Martin Necas, and Brady Shea. James Reimer had a pretty good game, I thought, but just no goal support once again. Can't win the game if you're not getting any goals. Freddie Anderson, 24 of 24. James Reimer, 29 of 33. Again, just no goal support. Seth Jarvis with a really strong game. Freddie Anderson, of course, shutting things down when he needed to. It's a pretty straightforward 4-0 win here for Carolina. The Wild hosting the Sharks. I don't think the Wild can get in at this point, especially with the way Vegas played tonight, but they do take care of business against the San Jose team. Eric Sinek in the first, Mikael Granlund in the second, but then Matt Boldy and Ryan Hartman in the third to make it a 3-1 final. Mackenzie Blackwood and Philip Gustafsson, both really good games. Blackwood, 29 of 31 for a 935. Gustafsson, 26 of 27 for a 963. Surprising to see the shot totals that close between these two teams, especially considering Minnesota could technically still make the playoffs. They should still be fighting for every one of these points, but just barely outshooting San Jose. They still get the job done, though. Once again, 3-1 is the final for the Wild. The Blues hosting the Calgary Flames. This team also doing their very best to stay in the race in the West for the final playoff spot. Zach Bolduc, Andrei Kuzmenko, and Jonathan Huberdeau all scoring in the first. We flipped the script, in the second. Jake Neighbors, Pavel Buchnevich, and another from Kuzmenko. We are tied at 3 heading to the third, where it's Brandon Saad and another from Pavel Buchnevich to make it a 5-3 victory for St. Louis. Dustin Wolf, not a great night, only faced 18 shots, gives up 4. It's a .778 save percentage for him. Bennington wasn't great either, but definitely better than a .778. He goes 25 for 28 and .893, and most importantly, the 2 points. We'll see if the Blues can bring it together to try to catch Vegas. I don't think it's going to happen. They're still a few points back, but getting these 2 points tonight is huge to keep them alive in the race. And once again, a 5-3 final for the Blues over Calgary. The Jets hosting the Vegas Golden Knights, and arguably the biggest performance of the entire night across the league tonight goes to Logan Thompson, a game Vegas very much needed, not only to keep some space between them and the teams chasing them down for the wildcard spot, but also to try to bridge the gap between them and Los Angeles, and Logan Thompson goes 39 for 40 in the winning effort. Dorofeyev in the first, Monahan in the second, 1-1 after 2, and then Barbashev scores the eventual game winner. He also scores an empty netter, as does Jack Eichel. It's a 4-1 final here. Hellebuck was also pretty good, 23 of 25, despite the fact that if you look at just the box score, it would look like he did not have a great night. He only gives up 2 of the 4 goals that Vegas scores, but again, Logan Thompson, the stud in this game, 39 of 40, carrying Vegas to the victory, and again, one that they needed in a very big way, 4-1 over Winnipeg. The Oilers taking on the LA Kings, and the reason that Vegas game was so important is because the Kings lose this one, and they're now 4th in the Pacific. The Oilers winning by a final score of 4-1. McDavid in the first, Henrique in the second, Bouchard, Kaliev, and Cody Ceci in the third. McDavid had a pretty strong night, 2 assists on top of that 1 goal. Leon Draisaitl also had 3 assists, and Stuart Skinner goes 32 for 33 for a .970 save percentage. The 3 biggest names on this team, at least for the time being, are the 3 best players in this one. Cam Talbot, not a great night. He only faces 19 shots, gives up 3 goals on those for an .842 save percentage. A tough loss for the Kings. They're now into the wild card spot rather than the divisional spot, though. For what that's worth, they're going to end up playing a very good team one way or another. So a tough loss for them. Solid win for Edmonton. 4-1 is the final. The Rangers taking on the Avalanche, maybe the most anticipated game of the night for me. 2 of the best teams in the entire league going head-to-head, a game that doesn't have a ton of implications for their playoff standings. Both of these teams could have clinched a spot, or I guess the Avs could have clinched a spot tonight. The Rangers, of course, having already clinched. No goals in the first. Casey Middlestat at the very end of the second period makes it a 1-0 game, and then in the first half of the third, Capo Caco and Chris Kreider both scoring to make it 2-1 in favor of the Rangers. Devon Toews would score about 3 minutes after Kreider's goal to tie us back up at 2, and then we head all the way to a shootout where it's Artemi Panarin and Vinny Trocheck both scoring for the Rangers to secure the victory. Igor Shesterkin was fantastic in this game, 38 of 40 for a .950 save percentage. Georgiev was also pretty good, just not quite able to keep up with Shesterkin. A .920 versus Shesterkin's .950. He goes 23 of 25, and of course gives up the extra 2 in the shootout. It's a 3-2 win for the Rangers. The Kraken taking on the Ducks, and we get the result in this game that most people probably would have expected. Jaden Schwartz, the only goal in the second. Lundestrom and Silverberg take the lead just momentarily for Anaheim in the third. Burakovsky ties it about 4 minutes after that, and then Ty Cartier and Matty Beniers both scoring to make it a 3-2 and then 4-2 lead for Seattle, where they end up getting the victory. Philip Grubauer, 21 of 23 for a .913. Lucas Staal, another kind of middle-of-the-road night, 24 of 28 for an .857. The Ducks just not quite able to muster up enough to get the W here. The Kraken playing pretty well lately, actually, but just not going to be enough to get them into a playoff spot. But they take care of this Ducks team. 4-2 is the final. The Coyotes hosting the Nashville Predators. The Preds, of course, looking to extend their 18-game point streak to 19, and it does not happen tonight. They get slammed by the Coyotes, and Logan Cooley secures his first career NHL hat-trick. Jason Zucker actually scores 2 goals in the first 5 minutes. It looks pretty good early on for Nashville, but Jack McBain and Logan Cooley with his first of the night round out the scoring in the first. It's 2-2 after 1. Keller and Cooley both score in the first 8 minutes of the second to make it 4-2 fairly early on. Gus Nyquist brings it back to a 1-goal game before Nick Bukestad and Nick Schmaltz both score to make it 6-3 headed to the third, in which Michelli and Cooley both score empty netters, that, of course, being the hat-trick goal for Logan Cooley. Philip Forsberg sandwiches a goal in there as well, his 41st of the year, but the game's well over by that point. And again, it's an 8-4 final here in favor of the Coyotes, who've had two pretty good games back-to-back. UC Saros, a tough night, 21 of 27 for a 778 in the losing effort. Connor Ingram was actually the busier of the two, despite not giving up 8 goals. 33 of 37 for an 892. Not the best night for him statistically, but he'll very much take the 2 points. It's another pretty fun win here for the Coyotes over a very, very hot Nashville team. And the final game of the night here, I feel like I got here pretty quickly. The Stars taking on the Vancouver Canucks here. The winner of this game could clinch a playoff spot, and tonight that is Dallas. Rope Hintz in the first, JT Miller in the second, and then Jamie Benn continues to be very strong in the third. A power play goal that becomes the game winner. Jason Robertson would score an empty netter with just over 2 minutes to play, but that goal, again, not mattering thanks to the goal from Jamie Benn. Jay Gottinger, who struggled a bit as of late, was pretty good tonight, 27 of 28 for a 964. Casey DeSmith was also very good, just again, not enough goal support from his guys in blue. 31 of 33 for a 939. He's been good in Demko's absence. I'm not really worried about this team if they have to start him in a game or two in the playoffs. I think Demko should be back, but Casey DeSmith has been pretty good for Vancouver tonight, though. Just no goal support to help him out, and it's a 3-1 victory for the Stars as a result. And that's going to be it for NHL regular season recap night 162. Only one game tomorrow, so I might loop in some coverage of the NCAA men's tournament just because I don't want to cover just one game between the Devils and Sabres, and that's what the NHL schedule makers gave us tomorrow. So we will talk to you guys then. Have a good one.